Yeah, go.
Welcome back to VHawks Podcast, where we do the most reporting on how the NFL is scripted. And today we bring you the best job by the script writers, despite the fact that our teams are not in the dance. We've got the Dolphins taking on the Chiefs. Tyreek Hill, possible revenge game, or the Chiefs showing him where he should have stayed. Then you got the Deshaun Watson Bowl in the Browns Texans game. Then you got Mike McCarthy at Dallas hosting his former team in the youngest team ever to make the playoffs. Then you've got the battle of Matthew Stafford, the most beloved quarterback in Detroit Lions history until now, probably. Um, Going to take on his former team in the Lions in their first home playoff game. Um, so yeah, you got some good scripts written along the lines. Like, you can definitely tell it's pretty well scripted. I'm buying into it now. Um, oh yeah, and Matt's here too.
Dang, okay. Well, for that, Tyler, the playoffs are here, and we're back on the couch for another year.
Yep. It's funny how y'all are smoking cigars when that's usually a playoff thing. But
Yeah,
it's I
yeah,
know
I
it's for I
know.
know it's for the kid though.
But that's not an excuse.
Yeah.
They could have done that
So
anywhere else, and I understand kind of why they're all young.
so where's my Justin Jefferson pick of uh third player in NFL history to hit 1,000+ yards in 10 games or less?
No, you just have him saying F when he was going to the sidelines.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I'd probably be saying the same thing too if you got a crappy coach and a quarterback by the name
Eighth
of Nick
string
Mullins.
quarterback.
Pretty much. Yeah.
But yeah, good weekend for me for getting the win. Just not a good weekend for you at all. But we're both just sitting on the couch.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only thing I can feel well, no, I mean, yeah, exactly. Like two of our division rivals made the playoffs and we didn't, so that's obviously not good. Um, so I mean, you know, we here, but honestly, I got what I wanted. I lost four in a row at the end to get a better draft pick because we weren't doing crap in the playoffs with Nick Mullins or uh Jaron Hall, unless he was a world beater. But of course, they'd wait till Sunday Night Football. But anyway, I'm not going to go down that path. We weren't doing crap in the playoffs, so I'm actually happy. Pick 11, I'll take it.
Seattle's
I
pick
will take it.
16. Um, Schneider, you got work to do. You need to go move that pick up at least top 10, my man. In Penix, we trust. That'll be my off-season motto till the draft.
Oh, it's fun. The Vikings are high on Penix too, but
No, we don't
honestly,
get him.
that's the guy with the knee surgeries, right?
Yeah, but he's played well. He
Yeah,
hasn't had injuries for the last two
y'all can
years.
have him. Y'all can have him.
Sounds good. Thank
I
you.
have,
I'll take him.
I have no interest,
You can have JJ
honestly.
McCarthy.
Actually, that's dude. I was legitimately about to say that. I want first round, stay at 11, take the best edge rusher available, then at pick 42, take McCarthy.
You realize he's not going to be there still.
Dude, there's gonna be a lot of quarterbacks in this draft. So even if whoever's if there's a projected round two guy, cool. If there's a projected round four guy and we get him in the fourth round, that's fine. I don't care.
That's probably Jordan Travis, who's coming off a torn whatever muscle in his leg.
I don't know. All I know is that McCarty was not projected in a lot of first round drafts, so it looked like he was going to go down to 42. It's what ESPN has the Vikings taking. He has us taking Latu from UCLA at 11, and then whoever has pick 12 is taking um Dallas Turner from Alabama, the other edge rusher, and then all the way in the second round, we're taking McCarty at 42.
Well, I
So
guess we'll see after what happened Monday. But speaking of
yeah,
last week,
yep,
not much happened except a bunch of people choking playoff games or playoff positioning and all that fun stuff.
yep. Can't say my team did that though, because we never had a lead and we had a 1% chance of making it. So
Actually, it was 4%, but yeah, close enough.
Well, I mean, if it is 4%, I don't see how that's true because we needed to beat Detroit. The Packers had to lose, the Falcons had to lose, or the Saints had to lose. You guys had to lose, and some other team had to lose. Who else had to
I think it was
lose?
just those three.
Okay, yeah. So we had to get so four games had to go right. That's a lot. So the only one that went right for us was Tampa Bay beating Carolina. So
And honestly, probably the most interesting news out of the weekend, other than Miami choking against another above 500 team to lose the second seed in the playoffs.
mhm.
We've already had Vrabel gone, which that was a shock. I was not expecting Vrabel to be gone.
I mean,
Uh,
we just talked about coaches on the last podcast, and we never even thought about him.
I
And
thought you were about to say, well, we had just talked about him, and I'm like, uh,
no, we brought up all the coaches who you
yeah.
think their job could be in jeopardy, and we didn't even bring up Vrabel because it's just like he's an amazing head coach. So, but that just goes to show you that I actually feel great about that from the Brian Flores' standpoint because with all the stuff that went down in Miami, he already announced that he's going to be super selective, and he's came out and said that this is the most fun he's had coaching so far. So, with what just happened to Vrabel in Tennessee, I'm not sure if Flores is going to want to go be a head coach right now. So I think we might have just bought another year of Flores, which I love.
But now we're with. All right, let's just go run down the list real quick. So Chargers need a coach. Raiders need a coach.
Mhm.
Panthers need a coach.
Titans need a coach.
Titan needs a coach. Washington needs a coach.
Atlanta needs a coach.
Atlanta needs a coach.
Did Carolina sign a new one, or were they on interim as well?
Interim.
Okay, so yeah, so they need a coach.
Depending on what happens with Belichick, we could see them needing a coach. And there's a couple other
But
teams
then
I could
that'll
see.
plug in one of the other spots. So I'd say leave it as not a coach for now because he'll go somewhere else. He's not retiring. Not yet.
Actually, honestly, that might be it.
Washington needs a coach too, and
Yeah,
then
I
that's
said
about it.
Washington.
Okay, yeah.
Which
And I honestly hope I need to see for the good of humanity, I need to see at some point soon Antonio Pierce being signed to the head coaching job at Vegas. I need that for like to believe in humanity again.
also for humanity, either I want Ron Rivera to at least get a coaching job in maybe a college or at least a defensive coordinator position somewhere. He's a good coach. He just hasn't had the talent
Exactly.
there for like a decade.
I agree. Those are the two coaches we want to see go somewhere. I mean, honestly, Vrabel is another one, but like
He's going to
the
get a position. That's
stories
not a problem.
he's just a great coach. He'll find a job.
Yeah.
The thing we want to see is Antonio Pierce and um Ron Rivera are good coaches, just bad situations. And Pierce made the best of what that bad situation was. So I mean,
And maybe if Arthur Smith goes somewhere, takes a coordinating position, or maybe assistant head coach somewhere or something like that, or maybe he becomes an interim head coach somewhere just for a certain period of time, I think he could get another chance. The Falcons just weren't there yet,
is
and
is
he
he
had a lot of
offensive or
offensive
defensive?
issues.
Is Arthur Smith offensive or defensive?
I'm not sure, I'll be honest, but the way he was using Pitts, the way he was using
Well, that's
London,
the thing. If he's a defensive head coach, I don't understand why they fired him. If he's offensive, then I understand fully why they
yeah,
fired him. But so, um, yeah, I don't know. I think he's good enough to get jobs elsewhere. I mean, they were good at the beginning and some parts of the middle of the season, and then they just kind of dropped off. So, I mean, Atlanta was looking tough throughout the beginning, and
they were tough in
stuff
that
happened.
game for like the first half, and then the Saints just like stepped the foot on the gas in a freaking
Right.
race car.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had Jameis Winston going rogue on the final play.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then Jamal Williams scored his first touchdown of the season, being the last drive. That's kind of
Was
sad,
there
dude. You go from the most rushing touchdowns in a franchise's history in Detroit, and then you score one touchdown on what was supposed to be a QB kneel. Like Saints did him dirty, man.
I think it's also when you have well, here's the thing, Kamara was suspended for those 6 games to begin the season?
3.
Was it 3?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I
So
mean,
punching a
it's
guy gives you
different.
3 games.
If you gamble, you're out for the year. But if you go and assault somebody, that's only 3 weeks. So teaches you right from the NFL does a good job of teaching you right from wrong. So
And then if you have 20 something cases of SA, just because I don't
yeah.
want to get us banned from YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
that only gives you 11 games.
Yep. Pretty much.
NFL, you're such an idiot, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you want to talk about this week, or do you want to go ahead and get into our breakdowns of our
Both
team
of us
season?
went 4-4 in our division picks.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. We each got a half right, and I think 3 of them overlap. So that's pretty cool. Both of us went well above 500 in our pick'em leagues. Unfortunately, I did get like 101, I think, losses. So um just barely. But that was better than like 95% of the people.
Yeah.
So
I was at least 89th percentile, so I can that was still good. So
oh yeah, absolutely. Great seasons. And like I'll enjoy watching these games because I do enjoy, like I said, I know I said like the NFL scripted and stuff and usually has a bad connotation, but like I actually do like these matchups. So
they're great
um
stories that
yeah, they're great stories. Most of them are great stories and like I'm invested in a lot of them. So um I just can't decide whether I want the Packers to beat Dallas to get back at Mike McCarthy because I didn't like him when he was in Green Bay, and I still don't like him now. And then have them get crushed by the 49ers like usual, like clockwork, or do I want them to just lose in Dallas?
now
So
let Dallas lose already, so they can't even say they even got at the divisional this year. Because here's the thing:
okay.
the last 2 years that they were some record and they made it to the divisional, they faced the 49ers. The only way they can face the 49ers is the NFC Championship.
Yeah,
I don't want that.
that's true.
Cowboys need to go now, and then Packers will face the 49ers in the divisional and get curb stomped. So you get
Or
both
that
teams
or
out.
there'd be a revenge of Detroit in Dallas.
I don't
And
want to trust Detroit's defense.
I mean, they're the ones who cut the Dallas's average point scored at home in half when they went there.
Who?
So
Oh no, but yeah, Dallas would have home field, and I don't really want to trust that either.
yeah, that's what I'm saying though. Detroit only let them score 20 at home when they average 40. So
Well, it's also depending on the injuries from your game because I know you said Brian Branch went out.
he came back in.
Okay, he came back in. All right.
It's Sam Laporta that's actually going to be out most likely.
Which they have enough weapons on offense. I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, St. Brown hurt his ribs too, but he came back in. Um, so yeah, we basically it was the opposite of week 16. All of their players just got injured at different points, and then their star tight end actually left for the game and is probably going to be out for the season, just like ours. And then everybody else on their team is either going to be out just this week or they're going to be right back in.
Also,
So
can we say that we watched the Eagles implode in less than half a season?
yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Ever since
that
that
game that
49ers
that game's
game,
a bit lopsided because Jalen Hurts got hurt, but I mean, honestly, they weren't looking good before that.
it
So
wasn't it wasn't even close before he got hurt.
yeah, so
And now that he's hurt his middle finger on his throwing hand, that's basically it for them because they're not getting anywhere without Jalen Hurts. Because that
mhm.
defense sucks. Tyrod Taylor looked like an MVP and should be the Giants starting quarterback next year. It was that bad. And I heard so
Well,
much about this Eagles defense to start this year that, oh, they have Georgia's defense. They played like they were facing Alabama this week.
mhm.
They were getting roasted. Like,
Tyrod Taylor's been doing well all year. Like he's just come up short a couple times, or the team has let him down. Rather,
no, but I
like
haven't seen
they've lost a
this.
lot of one score games.
but I didn't see this type of offensive firepower with so little. Yeah, Saquon Barkley's still a beast. We saw in this game he looked
Mhm.
great,
Yeah,
but we haven't seen that offense this efficient all year. And
they're the fraudulent team killers. Vikings last year and Eagles this year.
well, at least you won the division. They didn't even get the division. But if we're gonna be honest, Dallas wasn't looking too hot in Washington either. Like Dak was throwing. I think Dak threw a pick.
They
He
put up
dropped
38.
39. Well, no, in the first half, it was not looking great. In the second half, they started to pull away, but in the first half, from what I was watching, the Commanders were doing some damage to Dallas. Now, then you have all of Dallas's offensive firepower against
Yeah.
Washington's sole defense, because they decided to send their two best pass rushers away for absolutely nothing.
hmm
Washington, you suck.
And
Um,
that's the reason why the Bears went on such a winning streak. But of course, they can't do anything against Green Bay. So
well, they also get the number one pick in the draft, and what they're pick 8 too.
yeah.
Bears will be fine. Now, I will
Well,
also
yeah, I'm
say
saying they'll
Bears.
be fine. I'm just saying like they went on a streak. So and I can't imagine they go away from Fields, but there's a lot of talks about it.
Yeah, I don't. We'll have that discussion probably once we get out of the playoffs because there's not going to be any trades till we get closer.
Mhm. But yeah, we had some interesting stuff go on. Rams San Francisco became close, and that was that was a good game, but it was second string.
Against
I mean,
Sam
they
Darnold
they
versus
started a
Carson
little
Wentz,
bit, but then yeah, and Kansas City won because of a defensive score.
and
So
then Belichick lost to the Jets for the first time in how many years?
yeah, that was surprising. So 16 years or 16 games, maybe
It was
one of those
something
two.
like that. It was a stupid amount.
Mm-hmm. I mean, 16 games would be 8 years. So yeah.
Yeah.
That probably makes sense actually. Um,
You want to talk about your team, buddy?
I mean, I honestly I'm surprised we even played our starters. Like I don't. I mean, I get it. Get JJ to 1,000 yards, and we well accomplished that. He almost at 1,100, I think. And he still owns Ford Field. Justin Jefferson's stats in Ford Field is just ridiculous. Um,
I was going to say the
and
season, not just the game, but whatever.
wait, what?
Did we want to do the season breakdown now?
Oh, the season breakdown. Um, yeah. We started with a ton of fumbles, ton of turnovers in the season. Never really got them fixed because I think there were only two games in which we did not have a turnover, and that was the Saints game and the Raiders game. I believe those are the only two. Um, so when you have two games out of 17, that's awful. That's just dreadful. Other than that, though, you start 1-4, and you lose Justin Jefferson and the Chiefs game because of the refs. Yes, I still blame the refs for that game because it is on them. But anyway, you lose him, then you're thinking, okay, the season's over. Then Kirk transforms into Joe Montana and leads us to 5-5. Even beating the Niners at home, granted, but like still, that was the best team in football at the time. So we get that victory. Things are looking great. We get our first two-score win against the Packers in Lambeau. We go in and stomp them. But near the end of the game, tore his Achilles, right? Injuries to quarterbacks was another big thing that happened this year. And after that, you go get Josh Dobbs, which at the time looked like a great decision. And honestly, if Kevin O'Connell got his head out of his you know what, probably would have still been a good decision. Looked great in the Atlanta game because he's playing off the seat of his pants, right? That's how he plays football. Let him play backyard street football, let him outrun everybody when he needs to. And if he sees an open guy, throw it to him. Like that's exactly what he should be doing. Let him be a gunslinger. Then you see that for the first half of the Saints game. We're blowing the Saints out in that game. And then you see the second half. He looks exactly like Kirk Cousins, but not the Kirk Cousins that you saw this season or last season. You see back when Zimmer was here, the Kirk Cousins that was afraid, had no pocket presence, held onto the ball way too long. And you hardly see him run ever. I think he ran like once or twice in the second half. And same with the Broncos game and the Bears game. Like he never ran the ball. It's like you have a quarterback who's so dynamic and you should be able to put so many points on the board even without Justin Jefferson there because you've still got so many weapons and you've got a running quarterbacks with an O-line that was doing well at that time. So, but he wanted to make him into a pocket passer, so that killed Josh Dobbs. Again, like I'm firmly of the point where if I see a player with so much potential and they're doing what they need to be doing and they have such a regression that quickly and you can literally see it's because of coaching because he's instead of bouncing around back in the pocket and looking around rolling out and trying to find the open guy, he's literally doing what Kirk does, just drop back and just sit there and kind of hop there. It's coaching because that's not how Josh Dobbs plays the game. So that regression is on Kevin O'Connell, and it continued to hurt us in the future, which is why we ended up rolling with Nick Mullins because Jaren Hall, he didn't start him early enough. We should have started him early because Nick Mullins was throwing way too many interceptions as well. He wasn't getting the job done. He needed the job. We need to see what we had in the rookie so we can evaluate everybody. And he waits till prime time against the Packers in a must-win situation. And like, I get it. I'm not ready to call that he has the Kirk Cousins curse from prime time, except it's Sunday night this time. Like I'm not ready to call that. But I don't think you want to start a rookie in that situation in any point in time. I don't think any team wants to do that. So why we didn't start him against the Bengals on the road in what is one of the meaningless games of the year, I would say. Like those are the ones that you don't have to, hang your hat on it too much if you win or lose that game. Like it's out of conference, it's on the road, like it doesn't matter as much as say a division game or a conference game. So again, he should have gotten the experience but he's a Russell Wilson type quarterback in the sense of he's going to drop back just like Kirk does, but then after that he's going to kind of bounce around in the backfield, and then if he doesn't see something, he'll take off and scamper for a few yards. Like that's the type of game he likes. He can spin out of a sack or two. That's that type of thing. That's what he likes to do. But no, in the Packers game, he's also doing the same thing Kirk stuff. So it's just like Kevin O'Connell has to have a pocket passer. So that's why we kept Nick Mullins. But Nick Mullins can't go a game without having at least an even ratio of touchdowns to interceptions or turnovers in general. So he was doing great. He had 400 yards, I believe, and 2 touchdowns. And in the fourth quarter, throws 2 almost back-to-back interceptions. So, in that Lions game, I mean, it just wraps up the season. Turnovers killed us early, and injuries were just a huge problem. I mean, Packers game and the last Lions game, you saw what missing TJ Hawkinson did to us. Like that was the nail in the coffin. And also, like I mentioned the other week, in the Packers game, the team just quit. They did not want to be there. Nobody did. And to me, that also reflects on coaching. So it's Minnesota, and it's the second year for Kevin O'Connell, so he's definitely not on the hot seat in there. But I think he should be in the warm seat, and I think if next season doesn't go well either, I think they should seriously consider some changes there. Or if Kevin O'Connell can really dig deep and look at himself like he talks the talk, where he says, like, I really have to think about this one, really have to go in and figure out what I can do to be better for our guys, all the type of stuff he says at the press conferences, like, okay, actually go and do that this offseason and go back and watch the tape and think, a lot of my challenges were not good, or a lot of the stuff I should have challenged, I didn't. So maybe I should give that part to somebody else on the staff, or maybe I should give my timeout usage to somebody else on the staff. Something to help his play calling. Because I do believe Kevin O'Connell is a good play caller, but when he has to mix it up with everything else, it's like he ignores at least a third of the sheet or a third of his overall knowledge of plays, and he's just very limited. And you can't do that type of offense, especially when you have all the weapons we have. You need to be able to open up the pass and open it up in ways to get guys open and ways to protect your quarterback, such as rollouts. The fact that they didn't use that for any of the quarterbacks boggles my mind, especially when the offensive line started regressing towards the end of the season. So, I mean, again, that's all on coaching. You need to see that. The quarterbacks can only do so much. And injuries piled up. I mean, we had injuries on both sides of the ball, very significant injuries, and we also had game-to-game injuries. By the Detroit game at the end, we were playing our practice squad corners. I mean, you just can't write it up any differently. Everybody's injured. It's good to just get on the couch and just rest and come in next season and hope that things change, or hope for another bad year and Kevin O'Connell leaves. And then get another round of good talent in there and hopefully build another young team and be the next version of the Packers that are right now. So, because credit to them, they're a young team. They figured it out. They're getting hot at the right time. So give them credit as football, um, quote unquote analyst. I can see that they're doing the right things. So I don't see why we can't do the same thing. But instead of building around a quarterback, build around Justin Jefferson. So anyway, I'm glad it's over. I'm glad we lost. We didn't deserve to be in the dance. We had too many injuries. Kevin O'Connell wouldn't get out of his way. So makes sense. And it's even better that we lost both of our games by a larger margin as well, because it didn't make it at all nerve-wracking in the last two games. So
Must be
uh,
nice.
yeah. I got to get some heart health back.
Three
Those
of my
last 2
last four
weeks.
games were last minute drives. But yeah. You said all you needed to say.
Pretty much. I mean, turnovers, injuries, bad coaching. Yeah. So the fact that we even got 7 wins still surprises me.
Okay, I'm just gonna list you off some stats real quick.
Mm-hmm.
65% completion rate, 3,624 yards, 7.3 yards per completion, 241.6 a game, 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 31 sacks.
Mm-hmm.
What type of quarterback would you think that is?
This sounds like Kirk, but I think Kirk had 2 less touchdowns. So
Geno Smith.
wait a minute. I heard you right? It was 20 touchdowns.
Yes.
Kirk had 2 less touchdowns in like 9 or 10 weeks than Geno had all season.
Geno Smith
Sorry,
also only played 15 games,
that's kind of funny. But
which I think
Kirk
one or
played
two
it.
games he went out
Kirk played
early.
in 9 or 10. Dude, what do you want from me, dude?
Well, no, I'm just saying this was not a full season size, and Geno's also playing with some injuries. But going back to what I was
But you're
trying to,
talking about 15 games compared to 9 or 10. So
I'm
keep
also
that
not
in
sure
mind.
what the length of those 15 games were. I'm not sure if those are complete games because
Right.
Locke played in 4.
Mhm.
15 plus 4 does not make,
Okay, so 13 games.
yeah.
13 versus 10 still still different.
That's
But
closer, but still. Um, our running backs 905 yards, 462 yards, 35 yards for the season.
and actually no, Green Bay was week 8. My bad. So it's 8 games.
So even worse.
Exactly. It's 8 games versus 13. It's a 5-game difference. But
Like,
yeah, sorry. I'm helping you make your point because I know what point you're about to make. So if anything, I'm just trying to help you out.
So, what would you say Pete Carroll's offensive strategy is each year?
Mixing the run and the pass.
AKA running the football down your throat and then maybe hitting a deep shot or once or twice every now and then.
Yeah, but
Or
y'all also like
implementing
to
the
hit the
play.
medium. Y'all like the medium passes too. I have yet to see y'all throw like short passes unless they're to the running back.
Or
Like
it's screen
I don't
passes, quick outs,
yeah,
whatever.
like I don't see many slants or any like, 3 or 4 yard gains by receiver or something like that. It did I don't know. It's interesting. But whenever I see Gino dropping back to pass, it's always a deep shot or it's a screen or a dump
Medium
off to
shot
the
or
running
just
back.
dump off to the running back.
Yeah. So
Well,
there's no in between.
Seattle had the fifth worst running offense in the league this year.
I think we had the worst. That makes you
No,
feel any
but
better.
what I'm trying to say, you at least don't have like an amazing running back. We had Charbonnet and K9. If I told you before the year,
Wait. Oh, you mean we didn't have her? I was about to say, did you just
no,
call Alexander Madison, the guy, our starter, who didn't score a single rushing touchdown this season, a amazing running back?
no, you had issues with running backs all year.
Yes.
But if I told you that with K9 and Charbonnet, where at least one or both of them are healthy the full year, now if I told you that both were out for a couple games, then yes, that might make the difference.
Right.
But at least one of them was healthy each game, maybe for like one game where both were nicked up.
Yeah.
That Seattle would have the fifth worst running offense. You would say that they were like 3-15 or some whatever.
Oh yeah.
Like it was a horrible year. Everything went wrong.
But Gino saved you.
We'll get to Gino in a second because I need to hit the defense first because oh dude, this defense. I have
Because
never
didn't you guys hold on to the number one rushing defense for like a few weeks to start the season, or like a
we
good
were
long
top
chunk?
5 for like the first 5 weeks.
Right.
The
And
rest
then
of the
top
season
10
we
for the
were
next five.
31st.
Okay, so you went from top 5 in the first 5, then top 10, then first 10, then
No,
regress all the way through.
after week 5 or 6, we were the 31st rushing defense the rest of the year.
Interesting.
I don't know what happened. Now we've lost some defensive linemen, but that's how it goes. You're going to have injuries, and people are going to have injuries to their O lines. There's no excuse that you can't at least stay middle of the pack, even with one or two guys going down.
Mm-hmm.
That's something where it's next man up mentality. And I love Witherspoon. He's been great. He's my pick for defensive rookie of the year, even with the bias. I just don't know anybody else who would have played
Yeah,
better than
again,
him.
it's him or Jalen Carter. But I mean, honestly, Witherspoon had more of an impact and played more games.
That argument can be settled by the voters. We'll get to that. Once we get to that, East Coast bias might affect that. We'll see when we get there. But his tackling started to fall apart at the end of the season. And a large part of it was Tariq Woolen got benched during the Eagles game because of his lack of physicality. Now, I came back from the Titans game because he made the last play of the game where he knocked the wide receiver backwards out of bounds that ended the game, but that's just one play. The whole season, I wouldn't say he's digressed. Actually, that could be true, but he's lost a bit of physicality that I don't know if there was some injury there we just didn't know about. What I want Pete Carroll to do going into this offseason, one, sit down with both coordinators, offensive coordinator. It's bad when I can watch Seattle football and know what they're doing every single play and be able to call it out before they even do it.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody can do it. And if you and me can do it, that opposing defense can do it easily.
Yep.
I don't know how many running plays got stopped for like 1 or 2 yard losses because it was sniffed out within like 5 seconds. because they knew what was coming pre-play just because of what the package was in there. Now we had some good. We did well with the 13 personnel package just because we could mix the run in with the pass just because you don't know what we're going to do, and we had good tight ends. Some people don't have 3 good tight ends that each one can catch a pass. But I want the offensive coordinator. I'm telling him, you have till after Super Bowl week to sit down with me with a whole new playbook that isn't like I can't decide what you're doing just by seeing your formation. If you cannot give me a full new playbook that's better than the stuff you pulled this year, you're gone. The defensive coordinator, he needs to get sat down and said, this defense has sucked for the past 2, 3, 4 years. Now, part of that, we went from a 4-3 to a 3-4, which we don't really have the personnel to do 3-4.
Hey, we made that change last year and also didn't have this personnel to do that.
Yeah. Because you're leaving the C gap wide open, and there's nothing you can do about it unless you decide you want to stop them more. The 4-3 at least covered it and could hide a bit of that issue. And we got ran down that C gap all year. You could watch every single run play that hit a hole. It's that C gap, or if you try to cover the C gap, there's at least another one that's going to be open that they break down and 5-yard gain, 6-yard gain, 9-yard gain, 15-yard gain, 20-yard gain. Every single time they ran the ball, no matter who's the running back. In a division with the Rams, in a division with the 49ers, your run defense can't be the worst part of your team.
Mm-hmm.
Can't happen. If you were in the AFC West, maybe. Because everyone's just passing the ball except maybe the Raiders in the AFC West. But in the NFC West, you need to be able to stop the run to have any chance. Against Kyren Williams versus Christian McCaffrey, and even Connor was running up and down the field on Sunday until he got hurt. It can't happen. And I don't know how many times we would get to 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, and then there would be a wide open guy down the field. There needs to be changes, or it's going to be the same thing next year, and it's still just going to be a bad defense, and we're just going to get ripped apart. And it also comes with man-to-man responsibility, which you had Reek Woolen grabbing his crotch at the end of the Arizona game when they missed the field goal. You had the whole cigar gate after the game in the locker room. Maybe it was for Love's child, whatever. I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't in the conversation. There's a time and place for everything. This is at Arizona on the road after you just failed to make the playoffs. Not the time. You're telling me they couldn't go somewhere on Tuesday or Wednesday to do this? Had to be after that game on Sunday. It just can't happen. Yeah. It can't happen. And watching guys like Bobby Wagner, if Bobby Wagner was not part of this team this year, we probably weren't even like 5 games close to making the playoffs if he's not there. Because he was like, other than maybe Quandre Diggs and some other guys, there was no accountability for anybody. Like Jamal Adams, him just not even being at the games for the last 3 to 4 games of the year, that can't happen. He needs to be there at least for the team.
Mm-hmm.
And Pete Carroll, I love the guy. I feel like he's amazing. I want him to be our coach for the next few years while we build this team, just because I know he can coach. I know he can bring out what is in these guys, but there needs to be accountability. It's the same thing for the Chiefs offense with what's his name with Washington?
Kadarius Toney.
No, the offensive coordinator for Washington,
The enemy.
the enemy. Um, there needs to be that bad guy who holds you accountable. And the Legion of Boom would hold each other accountable. There were guys on that staff that would hold each other accountable. And another part of Seattle is I don't want coaches there that just want to stay there and are happy with their position. I want people like the I forgot his name, but the defensive coordinator for Dallas right now, um, who want to
Quinn.
be in a different position, who want to be a head coach, who want to improve their position somewhere else that next year.
Trust me, you don't want that.
No, I do. Because that means they're hungry and they want more.
But it also means they're gone next year.
But that also means the system's working. If they're still there, that means that nobody wanted them.
Oh, dude, I can debunk your statement with one word: Eagles.
But they at least got to the Super Bowl
They,
for 1 year.
they didn't change. They didn't change personnel, and they changed coordinators, and look what happened.
Though they at least made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
That's where I want this team to go. If it means the next year we're bad, okay, whatever. We at least made it to the Super Bowl. Because that's the ultimate goal, Tyler, to make it to the Super Bowl.
I know. I mean, you could also say last year their schedule was extremely easy. They played the AFC South, who didn't have Stroud at the time, and they played the NFC East. I believe no, they played us. My bad. But yeah, also there's bad teams in that division too.
But
By
still,
that I mean ours.
what I'm trying to say is like you ask any Rams fan if you would rather have them keep the same guys on that staff or whatever in trade for that Super Bowl run or whatever or what they're dealing with now for that Super Bowl run, they would take that Super Bowl run 90 out of 90 times.
Well, yeah,
Because
that's
that
because they've
Super
done it.
Bowl you will remember forever.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the next 5 to 10 years you suck.
Yeah, but to do that, you have to get. I would need to be guaranteed. Like I'm not saying I wouldn't take it. I just need the guarantee that I'm going to make it to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl because I want to build a team, and it's guys like Brian Flores. I'm scared of losing because he turned our defense around, and I don't want him to go. But we're also changing a ton of personnel as well, so I'd like to have continued success. So that's that's my thing. Like because you can't guarantee that just because you're going to have a good coordinator, you're going to make the Super Bowl. And then you make division round or championship game and then he's gone. So, I mean,
No, my main thing is what I'm trying to say is I just want people in that room to be hungry.
well, yeah,
I don't want them to be there thinking what I have is fine, what I'm doing is fine.
right.
If they get called to go somewhere else, okay. It's just a part of the deal. But I at least know they gave it all they had when they were here to get us to success. Right now, if we had gone to the playoffs, we'd probably get blown out round one. Because we can't call an offense, we can't call a defense. Is that bad? And yes, Geno Smith. All right, I guess I'll go on to Geno Smith now to go ahead and end my portion of this. I know Geno Smith broke the season record of game-winning drives this year in a
Mhm.
single season.
Wait, he broke the record? So all nine of your games were game winning drives?
No, it was like six. It was 5 to 6 games that he had a game-winning drive.
I thought Kirk made that record last year with like 8. Maybe it's a different record.
There was something that he broke some record for game-winning drives this year in a single
Maybe it
season.
was franchise?
Hold on. I mean,
I could have sworn Kirk set 8 or 9 fourth quarter game winning drives last season. And that was because we played all of our games one score, basically. And our defense couldn't stop anything.
Okay, it was tying the franchise record.
That's what. Okay, I was about to say
Okay.
because like we literally because our teams are very similar. You're how my team was last year, pretty much minus the playoffs, but again, minus the embarrassment of getting bounced by the Giants.
But what I'm trying to say is, yes, he had 5 game winning drives this year and 9 wins. But there are these games like the Cardinals game, like the Eagles game. Now, the Eagles, that was Drew Lock. I'll give that a pass. But like the Titans game. What else? Some other games that were one score
Steelers game.
games. Well, no, but he didn't win that one.
Oh, you're talking. Okay, gotcha.
I'm talking about the wins. There are times in these wins, it should have never gotten to that point. We should have won the game earlier, shouldn't have not taken a last second drive. In these losses, the Bengals game, the Rams game, if we didn't miss that kick, I understand, but I could go into every single game that Gino played, and there's 1 or 2 plays that he messes up on that the game would have been a lot in Seattle's hands. And I love Gino. He's an amazing story. I'm glad he succeeded last year. His ceiling was last year. And that was getting blown out in the playoffs in the wild card with a 9-8 record. And this year we saw him digress again. He was not the same Geno Smith. He was careless with the football. He did not make those key plays on third down. We sucked on third down all season. And we saw average Geno Smith. You
Let
can
me
win
ask
with
you a
him.
question, Matt. Last year he said they wrote him off, but he ain't wrote back. So last year he wrote back. Are you writing him off again?
Oh, I'm writing him out of the story, is what I'm going towards. I'm sorry, but it's time to move on. And I get you can say he's your guy. What if Pete Carroll got back to Seattle on Sunday? If I was the owner and I asked him, "Is Geno Smith still your guy?" and he said yes, I'm telling Pete Carroll to pack his bags. It's that serious. Because he's not taking this team anywhere. You have Jackson Smith-Njigba, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, 2 amazing tight ends, and Parkinson. And you're telling me you can only win 9 games? You're telling me against Arizona, you're telling me against the Bengals when they were all messed up, you're telling me against the Titans that it took to the final seconds to even decide the game? And that your best offensive output this year was against the Giants? What? And you're telling me you have Quandre Diggs. You're telling me you have Jamal Adams. You're telling me you have Bobby Wagner. You're telling me you have Reek Woolen. You're telling me you have Witherspoon. You're telling me you have Leonard Williams. All these guys on defense, and you're one of the worst defenses in the league, week in and week out. It doesn't make sense. And it just gets to that accountability, Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
Jamal Adams, I don't know where he's been this year. And there's these guys doing boneheaded plays. There's week 1 grabbing his crotch. DK Metcalf getting several flags during the year. That's messed us up.
Didn't he suplex a guy in the Niners game?
Yeah. Like, it's frustrating because I see the talent on this team week in and week out. There's these plays that are amazing. I've seen Witherspoon and JSN, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, all these guys making amazing plays.
Mm-hmm.
And then a play later, they're making boneheaded mistakes, and it's like, what are you doing? And I watch Gino, and he makes these game-winning drives that are excellent, amazing. probably could, if you just took all of Geno Smith's game-winning drives, even against the Rams, that we missed the field goal on, and you compared him to other guys in the league, you'd probably say he's one of the best quarterbacks. But then you add the rest of the tape, he's bottom. He sucks. Like, this is worse than Russell Wilson syndrome. Because Russell Wilson won't like throw picks and throw these random passes during the game that puts you in trouble, that makes you have to get to that point. Yeah, he might not really give you anything, or it's going to be very limited for like 60% of the game. But this is 90% of the game. If the defense does not hold on, and that's a big problem this year, the defense is on the field so much, especially in the first three quarters. They're racking up yards, they're racking up points, they're racking up all this. And then Geno Smith has to make this game-winning drive for us to even have a chance. And it's like every week I came back onto this podcast because I don't know what this team is.
Right.
There's some weeks like they could be one of the best teams in the league. The next week, they're one of the worst. Like, you saw what they did in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And then
That was
the
a
next
great
week,
game.
it's just horrible. Or it's like the week before with the 49ers game, they looked sloppy. They looked not there. They looked like they didn't want to play. And then the next week, they go to Dallas and like almost beat them. Now, I'm not saying the 49ers and Dallas are the same team, but like, why can't we keep that energy week to week to week? Why can't we keep that preparation and focus week to week to week? We can complain and whatever about Russell Wilson all day long, but I have never heard where he was not prepared for a game. When he was in Seattle, every time they would talk about him, it's how prepared he is, how much he prepares. He will get on the flight after a game and start preparing for the next week already.
Mm-hmm.
By the time the plane lands, he's already handing out the offensive line and the offensive his teammates like how to attack a defense and whatever. Like, Geno Smith, I don't even know if he watches film, and I'm sorry to say this, and I don't mean any disrespect to the man, but it's like I'm watching him and he looks like he's a deer in headlight for 90% of the games until the final drive where they're like they play conservatively to not lose, and then he just picks them apart. And it's like, where has this been all game? And then it's like we're force feeding DK. I think he has like 600 more yards than anybody else on the team, or it's some stupid, crazy difference. Because at the end of games, we're just force feeding DK because he's just this beast that can catch the ball wherever you throw it to.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't keep doing that.
Yeah, it's not like he's Justin Jefferson.
And the bad thing about this offseason is there's going to be some guys going. We still have a lot of young guys that's good, but soon they're going to need to get their money. And we're looking at Bobby Wagner. His contract expired. Jamal Adams is probably gone in most scenarios. I do not see a scenario where he stays just because of injuries. And from the reports I've heard, it was not a good ending these past few weeks with him getting put on IR just to end the year. And he's just not been able to stay healthy. From what he could have been when he came to Seattle, he could have made up those picks we gave for him. That injury bug, he could not get away from it. And I feel bad for the man because when your body is failing you, there's nothing you can really do. And I feel bad for the man, but his time in Seattle is probably done. And I don't know who else would really pick him up unless a team is desperate for a safety that they want to take a chance on. And even then, I'm not sure. Maybe a depth piece. I don't know. But those two, I think Jordan Brooks his contract's expiring. Will Dissly's contract is expiring. There's several other players. Our two interior offensive linemen are most likely gone. Just a lot of pieces on this team that if we're not able to get back, there's going to be a lot of holes in this roster that we need to fill. And I don't know if there's that much out there to fill it in. And it's not like the past few years where we've had 2 first round picks to deal with, where we can fill in those holes really quickly in the draft. We're going to have to go find veteran pieces to bring in which, honestly, is probably the best case for Seattle. We have a lot of young guys on this roster, but we need to bring in those veterans. Like Bobby Wagner, if we can keep him, that is number one priority right now for them, if not Jordan Brooks.
Right.
We need those veterans in that locker room to say, this is how you do it. This is not how you do it. You not smoke cigars for missing the playoffs. You can do that 2 days later. You can do it when you get off the plane and go home. Y'all can go meet at a bar. You can go meet wherever. Go meet at some private flat. I don't give a care. You do not do that in the locker room. You do not headbutt people. You do not choke slam people. You don't do any of this. You take care of business. Like there was issues with OTAs this year with people not being there. If you want to be a Super Bowl winning team, the whole team has to buy in. And you hear these little pieces throughout the year of like issues that go on, but are kind of like, hey, it's not that big of a problem. Well, those pieces start to add up. And when you are one of the worst defenses in the league, one of the worst third down offenses in the league, you're the 5th worst running offense in the league, and your quarterback's average at best, it's too much. And honestly, it's a miracle this squad went 9-8 this year. But there's got to be some changes, man, or we're going right back into what we dealt this year. And it just starts from the top, and it starts from the players. But yeah, we'll see what happens in the offseason. There just has to be some changes. Just been a frustrating year for what went in with a very talented group that could have been in the playoffs doing a lot more than sitting on the couch right now.
Yep. Heard that. Different reasons, but heard that.
Also, did you hear that the Broncos are now saying that they might not get rid of Russell Wilson during the offseason?
Yeah. Peyton said he's undecided. Yeah.
Which is stupid. He's not coming back.
Yeah, I personally, and I mean, I don't trust stuff anybody says until the season starts.
But I feel like for the 2 parties, they just need to spread. Like, it needs to just be over. This was not a good ending. And it just, I get you don't want to cut after the amount of money you paid, after the picks you paid, after all the pieces you paid. But the way you did it, it can't be healed.
Right.
And I get Jared Stidham did not look good in the last 2 games of the year, but that was the risk you were taking from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And say after that Chiefs game, I don't know who they played afterwards. I think it might have been the Chargers. I'm not sure. Might have been the Bills. I'm not don't remember that. But after the Chiefs game, if they had lost that next game and they decided to bench him, you're probably getting the same Jared Stidham you got in the past 2 weeks, and you would be even more in a hole because of that. Because one, you're not healing that relationship, and now you can say Jared Stidham's not your guy, and now you don't have a single quarterback in that room.
I made my I've talked too much crap about him. So
But yeah,
at some point I just feel capped out.
apparently the whole reasoning with Vrabel is that they decided to just leave him than trading him, which that's stupid.
I mean, I actually see that as kind of respectful because if you trade him, then you're just looking for the best price you can get, and you're not going to send him to a
That's
situation where he wants to go to. At least then he can now decide where he wants to go to, so long as they want him to. So I mean, I get that because personally, there's been a lot of situations where that's happened with coaches and players in the past, and I mean, I think if I were a player or coach, and I'm not the right piece for the organization, but I know I'm good at what I do, then I'd like my choice of where I'm going.
Though I think it's also easy to say that if they know you're cutting him, nobody's going to come to the board.
Right.
Sean Payton was a whole different variable with himself just because he was quote unquote retired, but his contract was still at the Saints.
Hmm.
He wasn't coming back to the Saints. So the Saints at least decided to get something for him.
Right.
Which that was even Miami's draft, or actually, no, that was the 49ers draft pick from the whole Trey Lance situation.
Hmm.
Man, have the 49ers gotten off that whole situation to look perfectly fine.
Yeah. Again, some teams can seem like they just have depth at all three levels and some of all positions, and then meanwhile the Vikings just we can't even get a good starting group together, let alone second and third string.
Or you're like the Broncos who trade for a quarterback or try to do anything for a quarterback and you completely suck. And then the 49ers trade for a first round quarterback that completely falls apart. It looks like one of the worst trades probably in history, but then pick with the last pick in the draft, a quarterback that is now giving them the number one seed in the NFC. And nobody bats an eye
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. I'm still of the mindset anyone can QB for the 49ers.
These playoffs will say a lot because I don't think the regular season, I think you can get away with that. Playoffs is a whole different system or a whole
Yeah.
different game.
Well, I mean, look at the losses in the past 2 years. The only real losses that I can think of in recent memory are when key pieces, i.e., CMC, Trent Williams, Debo, were hurt, or in the playoffs when Brock Purdy was hurt and the backup was hurt. So they literally had no one to play the position of quarterback.
Well, they also got curb stomped by the Ravens.
Correct. But I think there was another key piece hurt there as well. One of those
Eh,
players because during their yeah, Trent Williams was hurt halfway through the game.
Still, they were still
And
getting curb
also,
stomped before that.
that actually further proves my point because what did Brock Purdy do in that game? Throw a bunch of picks.
Though he was throwing picks before Trent Williams went out, let's be honest.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. What was he doing the whole game? He was throwing picks. The 49ers defense and their roster can only make up for so much. If the quarterback makes a bad
Yeah.
decision, that's on the quarterback, right? But my argument is that like I'm not going to say you're going to win every game if you're a 49ers quarterback, but if you've got a healthy roster, 9 times out of 10, you're winning that game even if you throw two picks. So,
That's what I'm also saying. These playoffs will prove a lot if Brock Purdy wins the Super Bowl.
I mean, not really. If that roster stays healthy and he doesn't severely mess up, I think that's entirely a possibility, or even a
So it's also
probability.
you're also going against a good team every single week, unless it's the Packers they have to play, which could totally be possible because I could see Dallas completely crapping the bed. And the NFC, I do not care about any of the teams, maybe except the Lions if they do anything. Honestly, whoever comes out of the AFC, unless they are completely battered, bruised, and absolutely like dead, like if it's the Ravens and everybody's healthy,
Hmm.
I don't see a team from the NFC beating them.
Right. Yeah, I hope whichever AFC team is there wins it because I don't like to root for teams in the NFC. Um, so I mean that's just rule of thumb for me. But
I know this
I
won't
mean,
happen, but if the Texans somehow win it all, dang, that would be a story.
yeah, I I would love that honestly. They deserve it. But also, who are these Texans that you speak of?
Okay, Tom Grossi fanboy, calm down.
Hey, you did the same thing.
Well, because you kept bringing it up.
I literally made the joke once, then a
No,
week
you
later
didn't. Stop that.
you make the
Stop
same joke.
that. You've done it for like half a season.
Maybe I brought up the joke a while, but I don't know. I just know recently it was back and forth, but it's all good. I don't really care. I like the reference.
Well, on to a better time of the year.
Yeah, we don't have to stress about our teams anymore. I actually feel better than I do.
I'm just glad it's over.
Same, like that's what I mean. Like I don't have to stress about this Sunday. I don't have to be like, going into Monday with a bad mood or anything like that. Like, you know,
That was kind of me because every Sunday we lost, my Monday is just like
yeah,
everything sucks. I don't want to do this podcast.
you're just defeated. Yeah.
And if it's wins, oh, I can't wait for the podcast. Everything's great. Everything's perfect. Now it's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then also you're like me. You're like, oh wait, we still have a podcast. No, I'm kidding. I just got a scheduling mix up for today. So I think part of it was because I'm so ingrained that I work from home Monday and Friday that because I worked home today because of inclement weather, I thought it was Monday again for some
Right.
reason. So I was just like, oh yeah, there's a podcast because today was Tuesday. So
I think that'll be all for our team's breakdowns and review of the last season of the NFL regular season and the end of our seasons.
yeah. Sorry, my review was a lot shorter than Matt's, but honestly, there's not really much else to talk about. We just got injured to all get out. So, I mean, you know, what more do you want from me? Let me know in the comments down below. But stay tuned for tomorrow and Thursday. We'll likely be making separate videos. We'll definitely do our predictions for the playoffs. We might do something special there. And then we're looking at doing a special video either whichever day we don't do predictions. So stay on the lookout for those, and those will be the most interesting ones as they're probably going to be shorter. Um so and for those of you who don't really care about the Seahawks and Vikings, you'll probably find it more enjoyable. So because this is just a place for us to vent our pain sometimes, and I feel like that's how it comes across. So
These last few weeks have this has definitely turned into Everything Sucks podcast.
this is kind of just misery love. We should rename our podcast Misery Loves Company and just that's it, honestly.
MLC podcast.
Yeah, MLC podcast. Matt loves chicken.
That's rude.
Well, I immediately was like MLC. That's another acronym for something else too. So I'm like, let me see. I'm like, oh, Matt's name starts with an M. There you go.
Matt laments Chiefs,
There you go.
aka the Kansas City Chiefs, not anything.
Matt loves Charbonnet.
This is going to be an off season, man. I'm dreading, but I'm also excited about because it could either go really good or absolutely horribly, and we're going to be the worst team in the league next year.
I broke down on a phone call, not broke down as in had a tantrum, but broke down as in like laid out a framework of like all the things the Vikings can do for this draft. On like a hour long conversation with my dad. And I was like, here's all the good things. And he's like, well, run me by the bad. And I'm like, here's 5 other different scenarios we could do. And he's like, yeah, I could see all those happening. So,
Another wide receiver in the first round. Let's go.
I mean, again, that's one of the least worst bad options because at least then it's just like, okay, if you're gonna chuck the ball and pray someone's there, at least you've got the capital spent in whoever's gonna be down there.
Okay,
Because
fine. Then another tight end.
in that situation, you'll have JJ, Addison, whatever first receiver you draft, and then Hawkinson is the shorter route, and likely you'll be faking it to a back. So,
No, you're just going
I
to
mean,
dump it off for 5 yards.
yeah, but depends on
Well,
the play call.
I think that'll do it. This has been pretty long. We just had to get them out to talk about, especially with our seasons ending finally.
Oh yeah, I think we're both glad that. I mean, I think it is also good for just each other because as competitive as you are, it's probably better that both of us either make it or both of us don't. Because I think it'd be a little bit lopsided if one of us was in and one of us wasn't. So
Because
that's
of them
one
like,
kind of
ah,
like
you suck.
hidden hidden good thing in there, you know. So, but yeah.
Just wake me up once the 49ers actually have to start paying attention to their cap space and can't keep the all-star Pro Bowl rosters they have.
Yeah, because like aren't the Saints in that position now? They're
That
like
they've batted
89.
it down for so many years that they are basically effed every year.
Yeah, like
That's been
again,
the past 2 years for the Saints.
that's the hashtag cap is the myth thing is like how many years can you just keep pushing it back? Because it's like at some point you're gonna have to pay for it.
At some point, you will be
So
screwed.
yeah,
It's just when do you actually want to be screwed?
exactly. So I mean,
Which honestly,
you
for the
know,
Saints, is good right now because they don't have a competitive roster. Well, they
exactly. So like that's when I'd be like, okay, let's take this hit now. You know, obviously they most of their hit would be on defense would be my imagination. Um, is they just revamp that because I mean honestly, I mean it was decent throughout most of the year, but it wasn't what it used to be. So I mean, but you've got young stars and Kamara on offense, so I don't think you want to remove any of them. So but Derek Carr's contract is huge and still not sure if he's the right fit for the Saints. But he deserves a starting job somewhere. I just think he needs a job where he can where he fits in. Like there's got to be a system there where he'll be better off in that somebody will actually want him in his contract because he can make plays. You just got to have a guy that believes in him and a team that can build around him. So anyway, enough about that. Um, we'll see y'all tomorrow.
Peace.